National Economic Council endorses recommendations on crisis fuel animal husbandry in Nigeria.
Health Minister unveils new multi-billion-dollar investment to boost local industries.
Minister of Regional Development seeks enhanced strategies to trigger more development in regions.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our conversation is on strategies to eradicate malaria in Nigeria.
For decades, the world has been grappling with malaria, a life-threatening disease described as one of the deadliest to children.
Yes, malaria claims the lives of many infants each year. For instance, in 2021, 95% of all malaria cases, as well as 90% of deaths from the disease, occurred in Africa.
A 2022 World Malaria Report indicates Nigeria accounts for 27% of global malaria cases and 31% of global deaths from the disease. These represent the highest in the world.
Concerned persons are saying that 97% of Nigeria's population is at risk of malaria. They insist issues such as temperature, humidity, altitude, and rainfall create the right environment for malaria vectors to thrive.
Other issues such as vegetation, resistance to older insecticides, parasites, resistance to anti-malarials, and inadequate health systems all contribute to Nigeria's alarming fatality data on malaria.
So far, there have been some initiatives targeted at addressing the challenges associated with malaria in Nigeria. Now, some of these are the National Malaria Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025, which is in its final year, utilizing mosquito-treated nets, investments in indoor residual spraying, and investing in insecticide resistance monitoring.
Other strategies targeted at addressing Nigeria's malaria burden include data collection and reporting, utilizing malaria prevention tools like insecticides-treated nets, seasonal malarial chemo prevention medicines, and the R21 malaria vaccine.
Let me also mention some other interventions initiated by government. They include strengthening health systems, local manufacturing and production of malaria intervention and commodities, scaling up access to vaccines, intensifying efforts to meet global malaria deadlines, among others.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we will delve into the possibility of a Nigeria with zero malaria cases. We have guests joining us shortly. Welcome to the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Ian Ray-John. It's glad to have you join us again this Friday. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. This is Africa's largest TV network. And because of the program, we'll bring you the newspaper review, and then Chukwudi Okoli Ogbaja will join us. But for now, we have Musa Abubakar standing by to give us the morning news. Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning to the both of you. And here's the news. The National Economic Council has endorsed recommendations of Livestock Ministry on addressing crisis fueled by the current system of animal husbandry, with approval of establishing the National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy, which targets $90 billion by 2035. NEC also approved the establishment of Cotton, Textiles and Garments Factory Regulatory Authority, among other resolutions. President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda on health is focusing on the localization of healthcare value chain, with a target of creating about 500,000 jobs in the sector in the next few years and investing more than $5.5 billion across 22 major projects in pharmaceuticals, health sector, manufacturing in Nigeria. Coordinator Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Alipati, disclosed this at the high-level ministerial dialogue with World Bank President Mr. Ajay Banga during the Health Workers Dialogue at the 2025 IMF World Bank Spring Meetings in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, IMF is calling for focused attention on urgent challenges facing Africa at the IMF World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C. IMF Director Kristalina Georgieva emphasized the need for proactive support to African economies amid mounting debt pressures and a shifting global landscape. The Minister of Regional Development, Abubakar Momo, has emphasized the need for regional commissions to innovate strategies that will bring about effective development, especially to regions affected by insurgency, banditry, and communal conflicts. The minister stated this at an interactive session with the Northeast Development Commission in Abuja. The 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME) has officially commenced across Nigeria, with over 2 million candidates participating at various accredited computer-based test centers nationwide. The examination began as scheduled at all accredited CBT centers in Abuja. One notable challenge observed was self-induced, as a number of candidates arrived late and consequently missed their examination session. So that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues after the break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, one person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, one person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Skincare for my underarms? Let's talk about it. Nivea Pearl and Beauty with pearl extract and avocado oil leaves my underarms soft and beautiful. I get care and 72-hour protection in one deal. Nivea Pearl and Beauty, the only skincare my underarms need. Skin is for having it all. Nivea is for skin.
Does your toothpaste give you complete fresh protection? New Close-Up Toothpaste Complete Fresh Protection takes care of your 5 important oral care needs. It gives you strong teeth, prevents tooth holes, cleans deeply, fights bacteria, and gives you fresh breath. Complete fresh protection from Close-Up.
So why do you need Dettol 12-hour protective shield?
Why? Come, let me show you. From my husband's germ-filled journey to war, to his daily interaction, touching where everyone has touched, and the sweaty journey back home. What else can give you all day long protection?
Germs are everywhere, but Dettol's 12-hour protective shield shields your family every day,
Keeping them safe, healthy, happy, and successful.
Dettol, be 100% sure.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Let's now take a look at what the newspapers have today.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja. Chuks, good morning.
Demola, how are you doing?
Thank God it's Friday.
It is Friday indeed. She doesn't want me to say I'm creaking in the wrong places, so I won't say that. But I need a rest. Mary, how are you doing?
Whether you say it or not, we know. Good morning to you, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
How dare you?
All right, let's take a look at the papers now quickly. Let's begin with the Daily Times this morning. The Daily Times leads with insecurity. Nigerian governors set up committee to collaborate with security agencies. And below the picture story, we have NYC to deploy core members to NDLEA rehab centers. Question is why. Page 5 has all the details. Kwara's keeping into terrorist trap. And that's on page 4. Plateau killings. Military makes progress. Captures suspects. That's on page 2. In the red strip, we have alleged $1 billion fraud. Court grants EFCC's priors to arrest 6 CBEX staff. That's on page 10. And finally, on the front page of the Daily Times, we have NEC unveils $90 billion agribees textile livestock overhaul. That's on page 9. A lot of very technical stories on the front page of the Daily Times this morning. But let's see what the leadership has. Leadership, of course, leads with something different. Today is World Malaria Day, and that's the major headline here. The kicker is World Malaria Day. Families battle malaria with 1.156 trillion naira yearly. And that's on page 4. The statistics is right here on the front page. Not interesting at all. Talking about Nigeria accounting for 27% of global cases. Just right beside the masthead, we have Hajj. That's the kicker. Pilgrims to get travel cash after VP's intervention. That's on page 8. And looking away from all of that, we have NEC approves textile board $90 billion livestock plan. That's on page 24. Happens to be on other papers this morning. And looking below the picture story, we have governor's military adopt technology to tackle insecurity. That's on page 7. And of course, on page 24, we're making the headline on the front page this morning. We are not surprised by defections to APC. That is credited to opposition coalition. All right, that's the march on the front page of the leadership. Demola.
All right, I have the Nation newspaper here, and just above the nameplate of the Nation's newspaper, court okays arrest warrant for 6 CBEX scam suspect. The details, it's on page 2. Then Edu projects more cash accrued from NNPCL. Details of that story can be found on page 28. I remain Labour Party Chairman, Abure insists. Details of that story can be found on page 27. Damago, Delta defections shocking, painful to PDP. More governors to join APC, says Ganduje. Party chair receives NNPP senator orders. Details of that story can be found on page 5. Sanwo-Olu at Harvard. Lagos is investors' delight. Then we have NEC defers discussion on state police. Governors, tech-driven security approach. Details of that story can be found on page 4. 170 nations delegations for Pope Francis' funeral. Doctor, he died without suffering. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Nelford disburses 53 billion as students' loan. Lecturer fired for sexual harassment. Details on page 6. Chooks.
Yes, the Pope's burial is tomorrow. I think he deserves the number of people. We are getting indications.
170 nations.
Yeah, it is a big one.
It is a big
deservedly so. I particularly mention Pope Francis and John Paul. They've been my heroes. Please, all popes, all religious leaders of the different sects, they are important. But it doesn't matter that you have your favorites, even among your children sometimes. So it's understandable. May he rest in peace. We didn't mention the defections in Delta State yesterday. Surprisingly, we didn't. I was listening to former PDP legal advisor Jacob Mark, on a television station yesterday. Quite knowledgeable man, you have to give it to him. And he tried at a point to dismiss the electoral relevance of some of the people who defected. He mentioned former Governor Kowa was able to deliver his state when he was Atiku's running mate and all that. But he did accept that for a governor to move from one party to another, that is something else. And Damagu just said it is painful. It's natural. It is natural. It is their right to do that. I think it is only the lawmakers that the Constitution is very clear and succinct about concerning the scenario for them to defect and all that. Check the Constitution. There's nothing very, very clear about a governor's defection. Yeah, I gathered that from some experts. Even the man I mentioned also said that in the interview. But the point at the end of the day is this. I'm from Delta State, so I should be concerned because I'm involved. As Ujuku would say, was it the people's will for our helmsmen to cross the carpet? It is their right. Give it to them.
Did they ask the people?
Was it our people's will? I'm going to keep calling our people to say, was it our will? Because if it's not our will, something is wrong somewhere. It is. We'll let politicians be themselves. They have right to attitude and actions. But was it our will? That is what would matter to the electorate and also matter to us as journalists, as people who watch society. So that's where I would like to leave the Delta State matter.
More to come, by the way.
More are coming.
Yes.
After Governor Iboro, who is coming there, you want my father's house.
You want to break the news, but you will hear it soon.
To walk away to another political party.
That's what Ganduje said now. He said more governors to join APC.
Exactly.
Ganduje would naturally be optimistic about throwing more hook, line, and sinker into so that another big fish will be caught. That is a
no, but I can assure you that in the coming days you're going to see more defections. That's just it.
You know, we refrain from saying things that will make us sound partisan. We are to watch them. But I would like to ask the Nigerian politician, the American system, we tend to be aping. We're aping it. We're not doing exactly what. Do they hear that Democrats cross to Republican Party like that? Do they hear that Republican? So whom are they trying to be like? Since we copied it, that's something for them to think about.
Now, this is homegrown democracy.
Homegrown democracy.
I like that.
Homegrown democracy must also contain homegrown accountability to the people. That's what we are concerned about with as journalists. That's the way it will be.
All right, away
but
from politics. Right. I think we should be talking about this approval of the textile board, by the federal government, a good one, hoping that it will revive the cotton, textile, and garment industry in the country. A lot of people have been asking that, or rather the call is that, we look away from oil and other things and just, and look at other things just so that we can improve our economy. And I think that this board is a good one. And then there's this $90 billion livestock plan, which the vice president also approved yesterday. I've not read the story in detail, but from the little that I know, I think that it's a good move by this administration to try to make the economy a bit better.
Let me come in from the angle of the 90 billion naira. I was beginning to ask myself, what is my hero Jega doing? He advises on livestock and all that. What has he been doing? So I'm happy that something is being said to empower him to do his job. Whoever is, there was something I didn't like when this farmer header crisis was going on. When they created the livestock ministry, some people were saying they should do something for farmers as well. They have been doing things for farmers from time immemorial. I remember when the ADPs were very functional and all that. And let us not be small about this thing. If we develop livestock properly in this country, it's a money spinner for Nigeria as a whole. I always like people to think globally. Don't get into those little crevices in your mind that foster, personalized views and little-mindedness. You understand? So it is a good thing. I like the fact that that is, happening. Let more things happen. If you remember, we also read where Edu is saying that the they're expecting more crude and cash in the days ahead.
Yeah.
All this will percolate
Projects
into more
more
revenue.
cash, crude from
Exactly.
NNPCL.
Yes.
But it's the good news that NIMET has suspended its strike after the intervention of the Minister of Aviation.
There was no way the NIMET strike was going to go beyond 3 days. You cannot give us unsafe skies for 2 hours. So I knew that our friend, each time I had interviews with him when I was on TV actively, that's Keyamu, I always enjoyed my sessions with him. And he has been very proactive in that ministry. I'm not saying it because I knew him, a bit closely. He has been doing well. So I knew he was going to tackle head-on the strike being planned, almost embarked upon by NIMET. It's a good thing. Aviation is one of those vital sectors that need input from special units that service its needs. NIMET is one of them. Very important.
Thank you very much. It's very important that we round up here at your session.
That's because you've not had malaria. This it's not fair. We didn't talk about World Malaria Day, but it's okay by
No,
that.
but that's our topic.
But that's our topic for today.
Fine. Let's leave that to the experts.
Oh,
So, yeah.
We are general knowledge people.
You want to say something about it? Just 30 seconds?
It's just to say that the vector is really something we should try more to nip in the bud. Stagnant water, handling and all that, treated mosquito nets. Don't let us allow the illness to come before we react.
So
let's be proactive about fighting malaria.
It.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Jukes.
Thanks a lot.
Enjoy your weekend.
And you too. Thank you.
All right, we'll take
all the parts that are creaking, by the way, over the weekend.
We'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each diversity is unique, we have more than the solution.
We are Nigeria, strength in unity, we know they carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the Real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The new Happic sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just one sachet for your toilet bowl. It gives 10 times better cleaning and big savings too.
Wow, Helen!
Sparkling clean toilet with Happic sachet.
Hi.
You don't know when you have bacteria breath, and bacteria may be the cause of it. Don't let bacteria breath get all the attention. Use Close-Up with antibacterial zinc. Close-Up helps get rid of bacteria breath.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Before we bring in our guest, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent Ibrahim Bello Gunda.
Malaria is one of the leading causes of death in children under 5 globally. According to the World Health Organization, a child dies from malaria every 2 minutes. 80% of the global malaria burden is carried by 15 countries, 14 of which are in sub-Saharan Africa. World Health Organization describes malaria elimination as the interruption of local transmission of a specified malaria parasite species in a defined geographical area because of deliberate activities, and it is a global health priority that is central to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals 3. Nigeria is actively working towards a malaria-free nation through its National Malaria Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025, which aims to significantly reduce malaria death and parasite prevalence. The vision is to achieve a malaria-free Nigeria with the goal of reducing malaria death to less than 50 per 1,000 births and a parasite prevalence of less than 10% by 2025. This is expected to be achieved through key strategies and efforts like investing in indoor residual spraying, investing in insecticide resistance monitoring, strengthening data collection and reporting, utilizing malaria prevention tools like insecticide-treated nets, seasonal malaria chemo prevention medicines, and the R21 malaria vaccine. Others are strengthening health systems, local manufacturing and production of malaria intervention and commodities, scaling up access to vaccine, intensifying efforts to meet World Health Organization malaria deadline, among others. Despite significant investment in malaria interventions, Nigeria has not yet achieved the desired outcome due to challenges like insecticide resistance in mosquito populations, inadequate data collection and reporting, lack of access to quality health service prompting delayed diagnosis and treatment of malaria, and in the long run, leading to more severe cases. What are the current efforts of a malaria-free Nigeria? Are interventions to end malaria yielding the desired result? And what is needed to achieve a zero malaria nation? These and more will set tune for discussion on the program.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Gunda, for that background report. And let's bring in our guest. First, let me introduce Dr. Omokudu Idoho. He is the Managing Director, Society for Family Health. Dr. Idoho, you are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Also joining us here is Dr. Shekarau Emmanuel, is the Head Case Management National Malaria Elimination Program. Dr. Shekarau, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Good. Still joining us here is Christine Maduete, is a UNICEF Nigeria country representative. Welcome to the program, Christian.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
All right.
All right, it's also an honor for me to introduce other guests, and they are not right here with us in the studio, but Professor Safia Brisibe joins us via Zoom. He's a professor of family medicine and the commissioner of health in Bayelsa State, and also the co-chairman of the National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee. Many thanks, Prof, for joining us again today.
Oh, thank you so very much for having me. It's always a pleasure being on your program because it's doing a lot for Nigerians actually.
Thank you, Prof. Also joining us from Kebbi is Nasir Umar Zaga, Program Manager, Malaria Elimination in Kebbi State. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Morning, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, before we begin our conversation this morning, we just want to remind our viewers that you can also contribute to the discussion by sending SMS to 08169688126 08169688126 on WhatsApp, and it has to just be just WhatsApp only, and that number is being displayed on your screen. So just send your own contribution on this discussion to 08169688126. Thank you very much. Now let's kickstart our conversation with Dr. Omokudu. We're talking about malaria. Tell us about the 2021 to 2025 target of making Nigeria malaria free, otherwise known as towards zero malaria.
Thank you very much for that question. I think the starting point is that those targets were set in the context of that we're just not fighting malaria. We're actually on the push towards elimination. As at 2022, the prevalence rate was 22%, and the idea was to get that to below 10% by 2025. And I think it's important to emphasize we're already in 2025, so at least that sort of speaks to the urgency of that conversation. But I think within that national numbers, which is moving from 22% to below 10%, there are multiple variables because some states are as high as 41%, while some are slightly above 10% mark. So it means that even though as a country, the travel direction is very clear, let's move from 22 to 10%, it meant right from when those targets were set that some states will need to work a lot harder because clearly if you're like 42% and you need to move to, say, 8%, then that will require a lot more effort than, for example, a state that was actually 12% working towards getting to below 10%. And also, that's the prevalence number, but there were also numbers related to deaths, so which are actually a measure of how well and how effective our clinical care processes are. And the idea was to get below 50 deaths per 1,000 live beds. So that's really bring it down. And I think maybe to put context here so that our audience will understand what we're saying. Out of every 4 cases of malaria right now in the world is actually in Nigeria. So that's 27%.
That's high.
That's very high, yeah, exactly. And if you then look at it, 37% of deaths are in Nigeria, again reflecting the quality of clinical care. So that was the base in which these targets were set, that by the end of this year, December, we should be able to get below 10% for prevalence nationally, some state more than others, as well as in terms of death, go below 50. Even 50 deaths is quite high, but it's just sort of recognizing where we're coming from. And so that's really the journey when we are talking about elimination.
Fantastic, Dr. Idogo. You say you intend to reduce these numbers that you just mentioned by the end of this year. I'm thinking this program started in 2021, this is 2025. So in the next, say, 7 months, you want to achieve this magic? How?
I think some of that progress is already there. And I think that's why if you look at the team that we've taken as a country, is talking about staying committed. Because I think the journey from 2020, well, we've actually seen some dramatic reductions. So if you look at, for example, all the investments that have been made, whether it's in ITN, we've scaled up ITN very dramatically to almost 300 million distributed over these last 4 or 5 years that we're discussing now. We've thrown in seasonal, what we call seasonal malaria chemoprophylaxis. What it means in plain speak is that we are ensuring that in places where there's very high transmission, that children below 5 years actually get a dose of medicine to prevent them from getting malaria. So again, we've scaled that to 21 states in this same time frame that we're discussing. We've also introduced the malaria vaccine. Again, I'm actually quite pleased Kebbi is even on online, because that's one of the states where it was piloted. A lot of work has been done around sort of deepening the data system, trying to do what we call sub-national tailoring. So we're not just looking at Nigeria as Nigeria, now we're actually saying where is malaria? Where is it higher? What is happening in the different local government level, ward level, district level, and we're taking a very tailored approach to ensure we can actually drive that down. I think in addition to all the, of course, technologies, approaches we've taken, there've also been a massive push around sort of building the political will that actually would help us achieve these targets, including, for example, the council that the minister just recently inaugurated in 2022.
All right, two statements that you made that I would like to see clarification, but that may be much later. You talked about getting a dose to prevent malaria. So I'm thinking, are people supposed to be, pre-treating malaria? Is that a way to go in dealing with this issue? Because, I mean, I've heard a lot of doctors talk about you shouldn't take malaria medication, until you're diagnosed, to have it. But that will be much later. And then talking about, what the government is doing, you also tell us what subnationals are doing in all of this situation. But let's get to UNICEF now. Let's speak with Christine Monduate. I understand you've been to all the states in the country in the fight, to ensure that malaria is completely eradicated. Tell us what you know. What really are the issues? Why is it a difficult push?
Yeah, well, I think there are many factors that are contributing definitely to this problem. One of them, of course, is the natural conditions of the country. This is climate driven. We have several floods in different parts of the country every year. So that's one. The sanitation conditions is another one. This is where you have the mosquitoes reservoirs, of course. But also there is a lack of understanding and information on how to have preventive measures. So although everybody knows there is malaria in the country, and I think there is not one community in the entire country that doesn't have cases of malaria, and definitely deaths, mainly children, because they are the smaller, the more vulnerable population in the country. Despite all this, the preventive measures that should be practiced by families, by communities, are still not there. The other factor is economical means, the high poverty conditions in several households in the country. At times they really don't have the means to get the mosquito nets. Of course, despite the efforts of the government, who always is trying to provide these type of supplies and commodities as much as possible. And so that is one, adequate mosquito nets with spray with insecticides. This is one of the most important preventive measures if you are in a malaria context. So this is one. You mentioned already the vaccine, but the vaccine, of course, we all have high hopes, and here we work together with the Ministry of Health and the malaria program, also at state level with the majority of the state ministries of health. I'm happy to see the Commissioner of Health of Bayelsa connected, because we spoke about malaria, I think it was 1 year ago when I was there. Yes, the malaria vaccine can be a huge, important response, but it's still on its pilot stage. So that means we all should be alerted, and we all should use our preventive measures First one, of course, the repellents that are available, although there is already some resistance to repellents, but despite that, we should try some measures about how to manage your households, right? And not really open doors, avoid having, the water there just deposited without not really taking care for it to be washed away. Okay. And the other one is the mosquito nets.
Okay, tell us specifically the programs and initiatives the UNICEF is implementing to support malaria elimination efforts in Nigeria.
So I would name 3 or 4 main ones. One is that we work closely with the federal ministry and at state level with the commissioners and the state ministries in building capacity, mainly also in supporting the primary health cares and community health workers in providing preventive messages to the people who attend to these health facilities. Second, we contribute to the country's efforts in the campaigning and awareness raising. So we always speak about awareness raising, but in other words, for all the people that is watching this program, awareness raising is having the enough information for you to understand first the seriousness of the problem, and second how to prevent it, and third how to have curative attention in health in case you already got the malaria. So that's the second point, information and social mobilization. Third, UNICEF supports with the procurement. I'm not saying the funding, the procurement we support because the funds come from the national budget. We support with the procurement of the vaccines and in the case of malaria, the whole idea with our procurement service is to bring them, to support them, to distribute them. And finally, our teams in the field help as well the national efforts in terms of the monitoring, right, of this. So the vaccines, as the doctor said, are now in Bayelsa and Kebbi. And well, we hope that the country can have the opportunity and the funds as well to increase. Now, what people need to know is the malaria vaccine is a 4-dose vaccine. So if you only go once, it's not enough, right? And one of the things we are now analyzing is that yes, people go, they take it once and they don't return, so there's a lot of dropout. Now the problem with this is first, you are not really fully immunized, but second, there is a lot of vaccine wastage. Vaccines that are costing the people, the government of Nigeria, a lot of resources. So whoever goes to take the vaccine, you need to be responsible enough to go back and finalize your treatment.
All right, I'd like to stay with you because you talked about the vaccines, and tell us, what's the quantity Nigeria has received so far? Because there's a report that says it's just been 1 million.
Yes, yes.
1 million
provided doses? by Gavi. Gavi is one of our main partners in the vaccine distribution and provision to countries. Now, yes, I mean 1 million sounds a small quantity in a country of 220 plus million inhabitants. But the point is, this is a new vaccine. So it is not that, Nigeria doesn't want to get a major volume of vaccines. It is globally the availability of vaccines because it's new.
Okay, Dr. Shekarau, you are the head case management National Malaria Elimination Program. So tell us, where is Nigeria on the timeline for achieving this target, which is in the final stage?
All right, thank you so much. So currently we're implementing the National Malaria Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025. And, you know, the last indicator survey conducted was in 2021, and we are planning to conduct the 2025 indicator survey, which will tell us the status. And like had been mentioned, we have been deploying high impact intervention, which is in line with the global best practices, in line with the WHO global technical strategy, of which oftentimes we pilot in country before we deploy. So we have been deploying interventions such as the preventive interventions. We have the insecticide treated nets, of which since 2010 up until now, we have distributed over 300 million nets to the populace.
Where the rural areas or the urban communities?
Yeah, in both rural and urban, but majorly of recent we are now concentrating more on the rural areas because, you know, oftentimes, like it's described, malaria is a disease of poverty, and often, even from our indicator survey, what we have seen is the fact that the incidence of malaria, it's more amongst the low-income earners, and so we focus interventions majorly on the community level. And even in countries where elimination has happened, you will realize that you have to focus intervention and work closely with communities for them to own this intervention and also utilize them optimally.
Okay.
Yes, and then we have also other preventive interventions. You know, we have a lot of preventive intervention because we don't even want the populace to come down with this disease, because it's easier when you've already nipped it rather than it happening and then you have to treat. So we have, apart from the insecticide treated nets, the seasonal malaria chemo prevention, which is another high impact intervention that has been recommended since 2012, and we have made progressive progress in deploying this intervention from 2013, when we just piloted it and we reached about 200,000 children. Currently, as at last year, we reached over 29 million children with this intervention across 21 states. So the reason why it's seasonal is the fact that it is deployed in areas of highly seasonal transmission of malaria in the country, and majorly it's in the northern part of the country where we have seasonality. Rainfall patterns often commences from June, you know, reach its peak in June, and then also ceases around October. So in the north, we're doing the seasonal malaria chemo prevention, and in the southern part of the country, we are piloting what we call the perennial malaria chemo prevention, which is almost similar to the seasonal malaria chemo prevention. Also, as part of prevention, recently the malaria vaccine has been already talked about, not to overflog it. We have commenced deployment in Kebbi and Bayelsa states, and the plan is a phased approach of deployment. We are planning to scale up to additional states, but, you know, like had been mentioned, the global availability and access to this vaccine is still not at optimum, and reason why the country was allotted 1 million doses, which we have taken stock of and have been deployed to those 2 states. We were pragmatic in choosing those 2 states because, for example, Kebbi State has the highest burden of malaria in the country. It has been consistent since 2010, when we had the first malaria indicator survey. Kebbi had 63% prevalence. By 2015, it had declined to 52%, and more recently, there's a minimal decline as well to 49% in Kebbi State. So when we say the prevalence in the country is 22%, it varies. Lagos State, for example, is at the verge of elimination of malaria in the country. So a number of states are also below 6%. A good example is Kwara State, for example, where we were able to deploy intervention, new interventions, like from 2021 we commenced seasonal malaria chemo prevention in Kwara State, and also the new nets project happened in Kwara State, alongside other key interventions such as prompt diagnosis and treatment and then surveillance.
Okay.
We were able to see a marked decline in Kwara State from 25% to 6% recently. So we are making progress, and we know that by the time we are able to conduct the malaria indicator survey in 2025,
that is by the end of this year.
By the end of this year, we would be able to tell. And more recently, let me quickly add, the coordinating minister of health, we haven't seen such, political commitment in a long while at ensuring, changing the narrative of malaria burden in the country, because globally we keep reporting Avon carrying the highest burden. He had organized a rethinking malaria roundtable discussion with global leaders, all the top names, a lot of resource persons that had helped other countries to bring down the burden were convened and deliberated, and he had set up the AMEN group, where we have top malaria resource persons across the globe coming to advise Nigeria. That's the Advisory on Malaria Elimination in Nigeria. That's the AMEN. That has been done, and more so, he has also commissioned the need for us to have a pragmatic, costed plan to ensure we have the exact and resources and the itemized intervention that we require to push the country to elimination. That has also been done. So that meeting came out with strong recommendations, that's pragmatic shifts and actions that would lead Nigeria to elimination. A number of them also is the need for the country to have manufacturing in country, that is quality assured medicines are manufactured and WHO pre-qualified. And just recently, one of those companies in Nigeria has also received WHO pre-qualification to manufacture sulfadoxine pyrimethamine for prevention of malaria amongst pregnant women. So those are just a few of some of the progress.
All right, thank you, Dr. Shekarau. I've been itching to ask you. You talked about the last indicator survey, and you said the last was done in 2021. I'm just wondering, for a program that's supposed to last from 2021 to 2025, shouldn't there have been another survey, say after 1 or 2 years, just to know what progress has been made and if strategies should be changed, considering the fact that the program is supposed to end this year and was supposed to be achieving net zero?
Yeah.
So why the delay in the indicator survey?
So excellent. So how these things are done is the fact that when you are implementing strategic plan, there is what we call the midterm review. So the midterm review, you assess your progress, and that we had done in 2022 to assess how far we have fared, what are the interventions that we have actually deployed and deployed well, what are the challenges that we are confronted with in order to refine the strategic plan and focus. The indicator survey oftentimes is usually done every 4 to 5 years. That's a different thing entirely. But for the review of the malaria strategic plan, which sets the targets of us getting to 10% prevalence, that review has been done. The malaria midterm review has been done.
In 2022, what was the statistics like?
Yeah, so that is not a statistics. Usually it's not a survey. It just reviews the interventions that have been deployed and how well they are doing and what gaps or challenges are seen in the implementation of the strategic plan. The standard is to have the indicator survey happen every 4 to 5 years. And if you calculate 2021 up to until now, it is just now we're qualified to conduct the indicator survey.
Okay, let's just bring in Professor Sayefa, who is the Professor of Family Medicine and Commissioner of Health in Bayelsa State Government and co-chairman of the National Emergency Medical Treatment. Professor, what have been the major challenge, or challenges, especially in Bayelsa, in implementing these zero malaria target? Can you just let us in?
Yes, thank you that I'm here. But for us in the Assured Prosperity Administration of Governor Oyediri, is that we, as a state, we are reinvesting in primary healthcare and sustainable financing. We are reimagining malaria control using innovations, data, and partnerships, and reigniting the fight through
Looks like we have lost connection with Bayelsa, where Professor Sophia Brisibe joins us from. Once we reconnect with him, of course, we'll get him back to answer that question. Let's get to Kebbi now, where we have Nasir Umar Zaga, the program manager, Malaria Elimination, Kebbi State. Okay, I understand that Professor Brisibe is back. You can go on with your response, sir.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So we are reinvesting in primary healthcare. We are through and then sustainable financing. We are reimagining malaria control using innovation, data partnerships, and we are reigniting the fight through leadership, collaboration, and community ownership. And of course, I'm happy that Christine is on the stage because the fight against malaria for us, most especially because we are one of the states that is piloting the malaria vaccines, which a major challenge is with our difficult terrain. And for the partnership and the collaboration we have with UNICEF, who are actually she donated 6 boat ambulances for us, so that deepens the immunization process. As of today, we have done over 30,000 first doses, over 15,000 second doses, and for about 5,000 third doses. We have a problem because, of course, of dropouts. But again, that is where leadership and collaboration comes, and then community ownership. So we're trying to drive that process and see that all that is needed in terms of getting these vaccines uptick increase. We're doing it through collaborations with our community leaders. We're on jingles all the times and all that. Outside that, outside this vaccines itself, what we are also doing is to see that the issue of mosquito-treated bed nets is the uptake increases. So periodically we organize outreaches to
Right, that connection is looks like malaria is trying to infest that connection, but it's not going to work. So let's get to Kebbi. Nasir Umar Zaga is there. Let's hear from him what Kebbi is doing differently and where they are in terms of achieving zero malaria status.
Thank you very much once again. Actually, in Kebbi, what we observe, the Kebbi is one of the states that are having high prevalence rate in the nation. So part of what we come with it now currently is to come with a multi-sectoral collaboration with other line ministry, like Ministry of Agri and Ministry of Environment. Consider Kebbi is one of the states that are producing more rice and also doing irrigation farming. So it's on other hand that malaria elimination program, they are trying to reduce the vector while in the agri on the process of doing irrigation farming. So it's like producing more vector mosquito, because mosquito usually need stagnant water for it to embrace the larva and also to be separating. So while we observe that program, yes, we are achieving from, if you look at from the survey in 2015, like indicator survey, the prevalence is around 63 and it reduces significantly to 52. And now currently is around 49%. So we still having the high prevalence rate in the state, in the nation. So we see that collaboration with other line ministry will bring for us to get to for us to able to reduce the vector within the environment. And also we also lies with the Ministry of Environment, because they are the one that are taking care of issue of fumigation and also sanitation, to see how we can able to line with them and reduce this prevalence. Then we also have challenges on the issue of this new malaria vaccine R21. Currently, we have vaccine in the States, but usually because it's a new vaccine, most of new vaccine usually is used to become in campaign. But this malaria vaccine was integrated in the routine immunization vaccine, instead of at least to do first campaign, so that we get more higher coverage than to do this as least routine. So this is part of what issue that we having in the state, but still we are trying to do more sensitization and also more community awareness and also ownership. So we are in the process now to bring in all the community leaders to own this program and also make sure the children that are supposed to get this vaccine and immunized. Part of what we observe that bringing some issues is that the line of the malaria list of the routine immunization. So it's only one dose. Like I remember, it's only number vaccine 3 that is another vaccine lies with it, because some people, for them to come back to just get only one antigen.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we are having some technical challenge with that, Kebbi, but we'll get back to Kebbi State later. But let's take some more reactions that have come in from our viewers. Maybe Dr. Omokudu, you react to some of these questions from our viewers. He said, this one said, good morning. Please, what is the government and different NGOs doing to curb the high cost of malaria drugs and nets? This question is from Dr. Collins from Port Harcourt. And the other one says, good morning all. What we really need in Nigeria is the complete eradication of the mosquito that brings the malaria. The government is to do its part and everyone should perform its obligation towards the eradication of the disease. Meanwhile, prevention should take the center stage. This is Jumai Sajer. And Mohammed Musa Afami, government needs to engage the services of community development workers as they play a crucial role in eliminating malaria by engaging with local communities, promoting awareness and facilitating access to prevention and treatment. People die because malaria drugs and treatments are so expensive right now. So many people can't afford it. This also is from George from Port Harcourt. I'll pause here. There are other reactions which my colleague will take probably after you have responded to some of these questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think maybe a starting point is always around from a cost effectiveness perspective, the prevention is always a cheaper option. And I think that's why even in the conversations we've had today, we started by talking about the spread from prevention to curative, that whole full spectrum. And so as a country, ITN, insecticide treated net, it's almost a national sort of programs. And like we've mentioned, more than 300 million has actually been distributed over the last couple of years. I think the first key sort of appeal from us is for those nets to actually be used for what they're meant for. So we really need to take individual charge. We need to sort of reignite our own individual commitment, our community commitment, to ensure that children, pregnant women sleep under those nets. I think that's really will be a major game changer, because that will reduce even transmission and therefore the need to actually then buy medicines. But to come to the first question there, which is a more specific question that's really around the cost of medicine, I think it's a big, big problem. And I think it's a problem that even nationally is being recognized. I know the minister is something he's focused a lot on. And I know there are different strategies that the ministry and the government is actually been pursuing, including one that is focused on increasing local manufacturing, which my colleague talked very extensively about here, that the more we're able to produce locally, the more government is able to sort of incentivize what we call bulk buying, which is one of the things that I know has been put into this year's budget. The idea, for example, that the health insurance can buy malaria medicine in bulk and they make all this widely available. So those are some of the strategy. Increase local manufacturing, look at the idea of bulk purchasing and to make it more sort of broadly available. For us as an organization, the Society for Family Health, we are also very focused on looking at what we call a social marketing. That's like somewhere in between the free and the commercial available to actually increase availability of medicine. And we do have our brand, which tries to respond to that top mark in terms of that. So that's a very practical way we've been doing that. There was a question on actually elimination. And I think, again, the conversation there are some states that are already almost looking at elimination. Lagos is a very classic example. Kwara is another example. And what that does show us, and I guess where it gives us a lot of confidence, is that when we say elimination, it's a very doable thing. And I think if there's one message that should go out to all of us, the viewers, this: when the conversation on eliminating malaria is on the table, it's not just one of these nice to have conversations. There are actually countries in our lifetime, in the last 10 years, that have eliminated malaria. Like Egypt, for example, is a practical example. You know, most people may not even know some section of the United States, even a lot of us like to go to Florida. Florida used to have mosquito until about 2 decades ago or thereabout. But they've eliminated it. So it's doable. And I think that's the key messaging that we're saying. And we have the technology. We have the different intervention. And I think the other key message in here is there is no one silver bullet. So there's no one of these intervention that will solve it. But we have combining ITN, that's insecticide treated net, plus availability of medicine, seasonal malaria chemo prevention, which he talked about.
How available is this treated net?
Relatively available. At least there's a whole national campaign. I know this year, for example, as a national program, which
when I say available, I mean also accessible to especially those in the rural community.
There are free elements. So, for example, as a country, we have what we call an ITN net campaigns that are taking place in close to 10 states this year. That's how extensive it is. And let me put some numbers to that. We are talking about distribution that is close to almost 60, 70 million ITN nets just this year alone. And that's why we keep
ensure that this
the
is
reach out
distributed and it is
that's
free
one thing
as
that
it
Society for Family Health we've done over the years. It's something we've done over the last 15.
In response to that, comment that you just made, I have a message that speaks to that. This one says, I'm trying to get the one on net. He said, I'm listening to your program. Good morning, Nigeria. My name is George. I'm texting from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. I'm watching your program. It's interesting, no doubt. But please, can your guests be honest about what they are saying? Because those mosquito nets they are talking about is being sold in many hospitals. And in fact, they hawk it in traffic. And nets is not free.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question, and I really want to respond to that. In the health sector, we actually do what is called a total market approach. A total market approach in the health sector recognizes that there will be what we call 100% subsidized, or in plain speak, free nets. There will be nets that have some level of subsidy. You know, the buyer pays a token, and there are nets that are full commercial nets. So if you walk into some pharmacy, you may find nets that are being sold. Those are commercial nets. And in health sector, as much as possible, we do not want to create a perverse incentive where you say everything is free at the end of. So it's important people understand that for most things, there's a total market that speaks to ability to pay across the different spectrum. So for those who can afford, you get full commercial nets. Those who can pay a token, the social marketing segment respond to them. And then there's the free nets. And what we're saying is in 10 states of this country this year, at least 70 million nets will be given out free. And I think that's a fact. And for example, Delta started yesterday. So for anybody in Delta, you could go to Asaba today, you could go and check Society for Family Health, where are the SR in that program. Those nets are free. There's a whole mechanism that have been put in place to figure out who needs to get that free net.
You just mentioned Asaba. Should that be the focus? Because that's an urban area.
No, it's the whole state. It's the whole state.
Okay.
It's
the local governments, anywhere in Delta State.
We get this thing. Let me explain how the process works. There's something we call micro planning. So basically, you're going to take the whole state data and say we have X number of local government here, we have X number of ward. And that's what he was saying. We will now take the data and say, where do we have more prevalence than the other? And then make decisions that then say, for example, if the prevalence is more in the peri-urban area or is more in the rural area, and like my colleague mentioned, we are seeing more of that in the rural area now, then you then prioritize those locations. And every single of those locations will get those nets.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Really
let's take more messages. We have more messages here. By the way, if you're watching...
After that, maybe Dr. Shekarau can
of course would respond,
some of these questions.
Just in case you want to send in your comments, questions or suggestions, the number remains 0816 968 8126 is also being displayed on your screen. You can send either SMS or WhatsApp message to the same number. Thank you very much. So looking at more messages here, this one says, why did the media stop the child survival series called Let Them Live in local languages in various states? It was supported by UNICEF in the 90s. I'm sure Christine will respond to that. This one says, good morning. All right, I'm Austin, and this is from Lagos. It says, thank you for bringing this issue up. The height of mosquito bites is too much, especially with the lack of power, you know. And this is from Lagos, by the way. You said Lagos is close to zero. Okay, but this person says mosquitoes are disturbing them badly. And that...
especially the female one.
And okay, anyways, that's like what the message is about. So it means that, I mean, the zero may not be really zero at the moment. Well, this one says, please, are treated nets effective and should it be encouraged for homes? And that's coming from Alexander Okpara. Another one says, good morning, Nigeria. Why don't you look at places where these mosquitoes dwell and find a way to bring in okay, well, I just talking about option towards zero malaria in Nigeria. That's Anna from Ago Place. Not sure where that is in Nigeria anyway, but talking about how we can actually eliminate mosquitoes in places where they dwell. So let's I'd like your response you know, to some of these comments from our viewers.
Thank you so much. Well, let me start with maybe a kind of sensitization and enlightenment, in that the presence of mosquito does not translate to that mosquito carrying the parasite. So what we are more aimed at is to...
Which one carries the parasite? The male?
Female.
Is the female.
Anopheles.
Is the female Anopheles mosquitoes.
Why female all the time? They
Well,
want to get the apple.
Well, maybe you ask God for that, but that's... yeah, but you know, they fertilize and all of that. So they carry, and they are the ones that, in the course of taking a blood meal,
okay,
all right, you know, usually the mosquito just comes innocently to want to feed, and it's in the course of biting. If that individual has the parasite, it will be picked by the mosquito, and when he goes again to his next victim, it now want to inject. You know, there is a way it does some kind of anesthesia there, like that's why when you are asleep, when they are biting, you don't even know, because there's a way they make it numb, and before you know it, they are able to carry the blood that they require to feed. And when they feed, they want to rest on the wall for digestion to happen. So what I'm trying to say is, if you and I, for example, utilize this intervention, the mosquito nets, the mosquitoes will not have access to go and inject the parasites. Okay, if an individual feels a fever and quickly presents at the health facility and is detected and treated on time, that medicine is going to be given will wipe out that parasite from the system, such that even when mosquito comes around, he will not be able to pick it. All the countries that have eliminated malaria, they still have mosquitoes. Is it United States? Is it China? Is it where? There's still mosquitoes. It's part of the ecosystem. They have to exist in any case. You can't possibly wipe out, exterminate the mosquito population. Otherwise, you are even causing another ecosystem problem. Okay. So mosquitoes will always be there, but they can exist without a parasite. So
it's the parasite that you want to
eliminate. It's the parasite that's why you hear us talk about parasite prevalence.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's that parasite that the mosquito carries to an individual and injects into that individual that gives the malaria. So I want to allay the fears of the populace to say that the fact that they see mosquitoes around do not imply that those mosquitoes carry the parasite, because of the several interventions were put in place over the years. You know, pregnant women, they take sulfadoxine pyrimethamine to wipe out the parasite from the system, because now another problem is the pregnant women, because of the placenta, the parasite loves that nutrient area, so it accumulates there, and we try to use certain intervention to wipe out that parasite from the system. Then the seasonal malaria chemo prevention, which is a monthly administration of sulfadoxine pyrimethamine and amodiaquine, in order to, you know, reduce the parasite load in children under 5. And you will realize that most of our intervention will target the vulnerable groups, because they are the ones that are likely to die from the disease, including the malaria vaccines and all of that. So with all this intervention, you will realize that over the years, the transmission is being, you know, truncated and minimized, and such that even when these mosquitoes occur, they are not carrying those parasites. Like in Lagos, of course, mosquitoes will exist in Lagos, water bodies and all of that. But because of years of intervention, and you know, Lagos, when the health system in Lagos is fantastic, for example, and access to commodities and what have you, it's not an issue, including infrastructure and all of that. So all those cumulate to help the state to attain that pre-emination status, which was recently launched by the Lagos State
How effective
governor.
are these nets, you know, in dealing with this? I mean, those that are hawked, I mean, we see all kinds of nets everywhere. You know, you find them in shops, you find them in...
You don't know which one
under the sun, everywhere. So how do you know which is effective against malaria? Or is it that anything called nets can prevent mosquitoes?
Yeah, so the nets that have the insecticides are the ones that are effective. That's why it's called insecticide treated. It is such that when those nets are hung in the house,
How do we identify those particular ones then?
Yeah, ideally it should be. That's why we encourage patronizing quality assured commodities, like the ones that are, like my colleague had mentioned, that we distribute through mass campaign. You can be rest assured those ones are insecticide treated, and it's in the bid to even repel or even kill the mosquitoes. When they come close, they are unable to. And these interventions, we don't just deploy them. They are tested. They are in line with best practices. What is done, those are some of the interventions. Even the countries that we're talking about that have eliminated malaria, those are such interventions that they deploy in order to attain the status of which they are. So they are effective if you patronize the right outlets for purchase.
Does it have a validity period?
Yeah, it does have about 3 years.
3
A
years.
reason why our replacement campaigns happen every 3 years in states where we have support, like, for example, from the Global Fund, from the PMI, USAID, and even more recently, the World Bank.
There's a big challenge now that people are really, complaining. This resistance to anti-malaria drugs. How is government, tackling that challenge? It's a big challenge right now. You buy drugs on the counter and all that. You find out that there's a lot of resistance.
All right. So let me state categorically here that we do not have resistance to anti-malarials, recommended anti-malarials in Nigeria. The ACTs, that's artemisinin combination therapy, there is no resistance to ACTs in Nigeria. We have instance of some areas or in the Eastern Africa, I think Rwanda and Uganda, where resistance is emerging.
Okay.
All right? But in West Africa and even in Nigeria, for example, we do not have resistance. Why do I say so? We are proactive at the National Malaria Elimination Program because we carry out what we call therapeutic efficacy studies.
Okay.
To ascertain the effectiveness of those anti-malarials that are recommended by the countries, by the country. So you are testing their efficacy. What I think is generally happening when people say the malaria drugs are not working, there are a number of things that happen. And the reason why we emphasize the need for testing before treatment.
Okay.
Many a times, when people have fever, what they just do is to walk into a pharmacy and purchase these malaria drugs. Okay? They just walk into the pharmacy to buy malaria medicines. They do not even know whether that fever is as a result of malaria or not.
Okay.
So, if you like, take a whole carton of ACT, the person will not get better because he's not even dealing with malaria. Then, a lot of times if they actually have been tested and they are found to be positive, especially in children or even adults, once you get home, when they get home, they take the first dose, they take the second dose, they feel better, they leave the remaining dose, the remaining days they are supposed to take. So certainly the parasite will, develop it back, and the person will not feel better. Then, of course, we do not also rule out the concerns of counterfeits, for example. But to say resistance, there's no resistance. There's treatment failure.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shekarau. We need to pause here. We'll be back shortly. Keep your messages coming in, and of course, the conversation continues. Stay with us.
Well, creativity is so broad. I would say whatever it is that you're creative about, it takes a lot of practice before you become very good. So if it's something you intend to pursue, it's something you have to keep doing. You have to keep practicing. It's not going to be an overnight success, which a lot of people look for. But if it's something you're determined about, but The drawback rather, is that you need what is called staying power. While you're developing your creativity, you need to earn a living. So I know that's where the conflict usually comes in, especially with the hardship in the country and all that. But I think a lot of encouragement from the private sector to create incubator hubs. We've had some of those in tech. We need those across various sectors as well. Incubator hubs where these ideas can come in, be developed, be encouraged, be funded, and then we can expand it from there.
Content creation, while it may sometimes get a bad rap, I think it's actually very important because we have to see ourselves. We have to see ourselves living our lives. We have to show and share our stories. I think that's very important. Now, the job after that is to be able to digitize those stories into something that can provide data and insights, that can ensure that we can be able to support whole-scale industry in these spaces, to ensure that the amount of money that each content creator is getting exceeds what is currently happening for many content creators. The same content creator who lives in Nigeria will be earning less than a content creator who's living in the US or the UK or Japan. And we've got to also bridge that gap, because most of that is being driven by the ability of the consumers to pay for those goods, and also the pricing that many of these platforms have. So I think this is not the job for the content creators and the young people. This is a job for people like myself in the ecosystem who can help support the right pricing, to advocate for the right policies, to support economic development for consumers who want to consume that information and that content. And even beyond content creation, we're seeing that many people are stepping in behind the camera. They are producers, editorial, they are graphic designers, they are in technology, but maybe not in front of the camera. And what we want to say is also, we need those people too. We need those stakeholders involved. And the job of many policymakers, DFIs, is to ensure that the strategic investments get there, the collaboration gets there, and we're deliberate in how we're saying we want to support innovation in our continent.
There's an age group where your brain function is at its maximum, and that's the age group we call the youth, isn't it? So we need the youth, the younger generation, who have the energy, the imagination to be equipped with the proper education, the proper tools, the proper encouragement, and then take what innovation they bring out and turn it into mainstream developmental ideas. So you find a lot of things that are invented by people in school or straight out of school. We need our patent laws to work so that they can earn a living from their imagination. Once the imagination is just for a one-year festival or an event, then it's not worth it. Somebody creates something, we need to get our patent laws to work, we need to enforce them, and then the private sector can use those patents to develop things and encourage more people to be more creative. Back in the days, yes, you had to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor. Today we have programmers, we have AI specialists, we have people that are doing ethics on genetics. Those things didn't exist 50 years ago. So there are new areas that need to be explored. The question really, apart from the parenting, does our educational curriculum cater for what the needs of the world will be in the next generation? Because our curriculum is dealing with the issues of the past. We need the government and the private sector to redo the entire educational curriculum to be forward-focused, not retroactive.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And our topic this morning is towards zero malaria in Nigeria. Our guests are still very much with us. And it's now time to get to the UNICEF representative right here in Nigeria, Christine Mondwate. Of course, I want you to speak some more. We do not have much time left, but I want you to speak about what you think we should be doing differently. I'm asking that because, the fight against malaria has been, ages, but it looks like the numbers are reducing, but not that much, just very minimal. difference in our fight. And according to a report, Nigeria spends $1.1 billion annually just to fight malaria. But I don't know. We're not seeing that kind of huge difference in the statistics. Speak to us. What exactly do you think we should be doing differently?
Well, I think that to really have a huge change and hopefully to eradicate malaria in Nigeria, everybody should understand that each one has a responsibility and an accountability and a role to play. So what I frequently hear, in Nigeria, yes, there is a primary responsibility from the federal government and the state governments to prioritize and to make the service accessible, to support in prevention actions and campaigns, to ensure that people understand how to do the preventive measures. There's also not really into the health sector responsibilities, but there are other responsibilities in terms of environment, in terms of sanitation that needs to be considered. And that is what we call the service provider side. But another key factor is the rest of the country, right? So if any citizen, any person that lives in Nigeria knows that there is a problem of malaria because they have had malaria, their neighbors have malaria, or anyone in their community have malaria, and they know how to prevent it, they should prevent it. They should be disciplined enough to follow the practices such as using the bed nets, right? That's one. The other one is because we heard the medical information that was provided, it's a parasite. If you receive the treatment and you don't finish the treatment, you will continue having the parasite. But the most challenging piece here is that you will transfer the parasite to other people through the mosquitoes. So one family member might have the parasite. The mosquitoes are there in the home and they are biting one member and then biting another member. So that is the way how you transmit the malaria. So I'm saying this because it is not just the public sector responsibility. It is the responsibility of everybody in the country. Once one of the key actors fail, then it doesn't work. And I hear today, we have to speak with religious leaders, with traditional leaders. They have a responsibility to call their communities and say, this needs to happen without exception. Because the problem here is that the exception makes the rule.
Okay.
So I really make a huge call. We heard the millions, billions of nairas that are invested in the country to treat malaria. By now, it should have been eradicated with this huge investment. So whatever is invested needs to be efficient, effective, productive. From, and here I say from, of course, the public sector side, any investment that the government makes, of course, they are accountable and they need to ensure that the results are there. And that's why the malaria program is monitored and there is an assessment to see the progress.
Okay.
And I said the other side is my contribution, your contribution as media to prevent and eradicate malaria.
Okay, thank you very much, Christian. Whatever money that is invested must be efficient, effective, and productive. All right, let's go to our Zoom guest. I'm talking about Professor Seyefa in Bayelsa. I would just want to ask this question because when Dr. Shekara was talking about the treatment, he said a lot of people have wrong diagnosis for the treatment of malaria, and that is why they complain of sometimes that there is this resistance to anti-malaria drugs. I want to find out in your state, how can prompt access, how can access to prompt and effective malaria diagnosis and treatment be improved on? Do you have in your different health centers, do you have correct, where people can go for treatment and get the right diagnosis, for the treatment of malaria?
Thank you very much. About malaria is one of the first instance presentation at the primary care level, both in hospitals and even in primary healthcare facilities. And for us, what we try to do, because it's a work in progress, just like what Christina said, we have multi-stake partners, stakeholders. So it's responsibility of everybody. First, is to see that we get advocacy and get communities to be involved in a way that presentation is early. Under 5, mortality increases when these children are presented late, and even some disbelieve that, look, malaria is not even caused by mosquitoes. So we try and re-engineer that process and see that our health insurance scheme is robust enough. And the Bayelsa Health Insurance Scheme is one that even at the point of entrance is free. At the point of primary care, there is no co-payment. So access to that is very, very, it is almost as is very okay. But what we are also trying to do with the health insurance scheme is to get these drugs, the ACTs, available, and say that, look, the barest minimum is this. And of course, majority of malaria treatments has to be on empirical diagnosis in any case. But outside that, we try and see that at least we have the necessary laboratory support system in our primary care facilities, in our secondary care facilities, to see that the testing is done as quick as possible. And
all right, what do I say about this connection?
As always,
we need to recommend ACT. I'm sure the doctor would do that for us. All right, let's see if we can get to Kebbi. Quite unfortunate that the network is not too stable, but let's see if that of Kebbi is better. As we round up the conversation, Nasir, Umar, please speak to us really. What are the steps you intend to take in the next 7 months? Just so that Kebbi can attain the 0 status.
Okay. Thank you very much, one again. Like I said earlier, we first step that we take is for us to do multi-sectoral collaboration with other line ministry, and also we have different intervention. You see this vaccine R21 that's piloted in Kebbi. It's also one of intervention. We also have another intervention of seasonal malaria can be prevention that all our LGS are benefiting from it. This is giving malaria treatment during the rainy season, which starting from June to October. Kebbi, we have rain pattern within those 4 to 5 months, that June to October. And we also have facilities that we are supporting with malaria commodity, which is free. We have about 527 health facilities that they are receiving commodities that is free. Test is free, and also the treatment is also free for all these facilities. Part of them, there is also secondary health facility, and also the primary health facility are all enjoying this one. And there is even some facilities that are institutional facility from the university. We're also targeting those facilities to make sure everybody have the access of this commodity and is also free. So what we are feeling to the national and also the state government is to for us to sustain this program, to continue getting this access to this commodity free to all the beneficiaries. And for the our community is for them to comply with the guidelines of malaria policy, because one of the problems that we have is like people, they don't want follow what is in the guideline. Maybe you have to get test before you receive commodity. Everybody just want to just receive the commodity and take it. The moment they have fever, they think that it's malaria. It's not all fever that is malaria. So if they can follow and get tested and confirm this case is malaria and also receive commodities, that will be better. But still, we having issue of people that are thinking that every fever is malaria. The moment they have fever, they will just rush to the chemist and leave the commodities that is free in the health facility and go to buy commodities thinking that they have malaria, which is actually is not the malaria. So if people will follow the guideline saying that let me test and also receive, if it's confirmed, receive the commodity, that will be better. Thank you.
Nasiru, not every fever is malaria, so that is why we need to go get the right diagnosis. Thank you very much. We have more reactions from our guests, from our viewers rather, and just let me take one or two of these reactions. It says, good morning. How can we assess mosquito nets, and when will Nigeria start implementing the malaria vaccine? I think that has been answered. We've started the vaccination. It's on already. When will the vaccine be available nationwide? I think that one, we need to answer that. I think availability of the vaccine will go a long way in reducing malaria prevalence in Nigeria. Malaria drug is very expensive now. Are there efforts to make it affordable or free? I think that also has been answered earlier, but maybe the one that should be answered will be, when will the vaccine be available nationwide? I think availability of vaccine will go a long way in reducing malaria prevalence in Nigeria.
All right, let's just take some more messages so that Dr. Idogo can just respond to them all at once. This one says, malaria elimination in Nigeria needs more sensitization and attention to environmental sanitation. This one says, what is the implication of stagnant water around homes? That's coming from Ishako in Maiduguri. This one says, is it true that mosquitoes die in the home just by placing the treated nets?
And someone said that malaria cannot be eradicated in any nation in the tropics. The warm environment favors the vector insects to thrive.
All right, I'll just take two more here. It says, people still live in filthy and bushy environments with poor human waste disposal habits that breeds mosquitoes. Information dissemination in Nigerian languages to local communities is key. Fantastic. That's coming from Yusuf Abdul, all the way from Zaria. This one says, good morning. Well done, guys. I want to suggest that all this effort to eradicate malaria or towards zero malaria in Nigeria can only be achieved if all our scientists come together to find a way of infecting the mosquitoes that cause malaria, so they will not be able to make anyone sick, and we can kill them. This is coming from Haji Aladi.
Anyway, well, just have your take and his take and our take because of time.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think maybe the starting point really speaks to the point around tropics. And I think my colleague is really dealt with that. That is not the mosquito per se, it's the parasite. And once you focus on the parasite, once you're able to separate the parasite from the mosquito, it's very doable. The science is clear. I think it's been tested very clearly over the year.
Well, how do you separate? I think it's a
one of them is the
parasite.
net. One of them is the net. So, for example, the question somebody asked, an ITN, an insecticide-treated net, just the mosquito touching the net dies. And once the mosquito is unable to sort of assess the parasite in the blood. Of course, after some time, it's natural sort of elimination process. It doesn't mean the mosquitoes will not be there like he described very well.
Okay.
And maybe just so I know we're wrapping up now. So for us as an organization, SFH, so what over the next couple of months till December, we're working with Lagos State. We're actually quite proud of some of the success so far recorded. For example, we implemented what we call the Joint Mass Campaign SMC in Kwara that actually saw the prevalence dropped. So I'm actually quite pleased that right now we're working in Lagos State to ensure that literally every fever in Lagos is tested before a decision on treatment. And that's something we're running across almost all the facility. We are scaling up access to medicines in Lagos. So almost all public health facility in Lagos, 600 and thereabouts.
But the question will be, if you say Lagos is about attaining zero malaria status, why concentrate on Lagos again?
So we can actually show and prove. I think that's the key message. I'm saying that by the time we're getting to December, we need some excellent success story. And that success story that needs to be said is that it's possible. Lagos has shown it. Kwara has shown it. And hopefully that becomes something that gingers a commitment. Keep in mind that Nigerians, our own sort of local slogan this year is for us to sort of reignite our commitments. So we know it's possible because we are seeing a bit of flagging. We are seeing a bit of, that drop. The tools are not complete. Like my colleague online was saying something about if you take Kebbi and the rice farm, the paddy farming, again, there are technologies there. There are things that eat up those things. There are ways you treat that. We are piloting RS, that's insecticide residual spraying in some select locations. So we have every single tool we need. What we need is leadership from community to traditional ruler to the highest level of national
because
leadership.
of time, let's just talk, Dr. Shekarau.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to take the question around when the malaria vaccines will be available
nationwide.
Yeah, nationwide. So, the National Malaria Nation Program is working closely with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency that has a mandate of deploying the vaccines in country. We have a scale-up plan. Of course, it's a phased approach to the deployment of the vaccines.
Okay.
We started with the 2 states last year, and the plan is to have more states coming this year. Possibly the plan is to have about additional 17, even though some challenges here and there around the fact that the vaccines are actually expensive, and also the availability and accessibility nationwide, globally, because, the technologies have not really been transferred, to more other pharmaceutical firms to commence production and all of that. So that is, we're still there. Then for the malaria drugs, I can hear a lot of concerns around the cost.
Yeah.
I know the federal government under the coordinating Minister of Health, Professor Patti, are working to see how some kind of subsidy can come into the malaria medicine through the affordable medicines facility for malaria, AMFM. That has been tried before, but we are also still looking to see how that can be explored, in addition to what he had said about having the National Health Insurance Authority having this procured en masse, and so making it more accessible. And if I may just quickly wrap up, here is the need for the populace to utilize this intervention. We have these interventions, deployed across the country as much as possible.
All right.
And the need for populace to patronize, to use the seasonal malaria chemo prevention, utilize the nets, sleep under them, and not collect this net and go and fence farms and what have you, and all of those. So
Thank
the
you very
need
much.
to utilize those interventions.
Dr. Shekara,
Okay,
we're running out of time.
Kristen? Maybe you can just give us
Yes, well,
your parting shots.
maybe I will have an ask to all the viewers of the program, and it is about, you heard the different points of view. Today you learned the different efforts that are being made in the country. Now you have a responsibility, whoever is looking at the program, and your responsibility is to widespread the information on what is malaria, how you can prevent malaria, and how you can contribute to eliminate malaria. So this is a straightforward message. UNICEF is present here for several decades now. We work for health, nutrition, water, sanitation, education, but we have a very holistic view, and that is why I am always sharing and the importance of this holistic approach.
Thank you
And
very
it
much.
has to be a task for all.
Thank you so much. I think that's a fine place to leave the conversation. We've run out of time completely, but of course the message has been passed. Thank you so much, Christine Mondwate, UNICEF Nigeria Country Representative. It was a pleasure to have you on the program. Of course, we do also sincerely appreciate Dr. Emmanuel Shekarau, Head Case Management National Malaria Elimination Program. Thank you so much. We hope that you continue the effort and we get to hear some success stories. Dr. Omokodu Idogu, Managing Director, Society for Family Health. Thank you so much for your thoughts on the program. And of course, although the network is a bit poor, we appreciate Professor C.F. Brisibe, Professor of Family Medicine and the Commissioner of Health, Bayelsa State, and the Co-Chairman of the National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee. Thank you so much, Prof. Nasiru Umar Zaga, the Program Manager, Malaria Elimination, Kebbi State. We do sincerely appreciate you both and look forward to seeing you some other time. All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. It's World Malaria Day. Do your bit. I'm Henry John. Live locked on the NTA.
Well, I'm Ademola Adeye. Do have a lovely weekend. Bye for now.